us. It is 6 o'clock, and my pastor said that we start things on time. So we serve an on-time God. Yes, we do. So we're going to be on time. I'm going to just start one by just welcoming all of you. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Elisa Wells. I am the president of JLS, Jackson Life Services Incorporated. And just to give you a little introduction as to who we are, our mission is to provide life services that educate, enrich, and empower our local, national, and international communities with a heavy focus on the Whiteley community. Our organization commits to providing support services by way of counseling, mentoring, and community development. And this is one of our largest events. We are very excited to be talking and celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month. We are very fortunate to have received a grant to help us. My pastor always says, you know, to do ministry well, it costs. It costs financially, and we've been very blessed to be able to get some funds to host this. So after we have our wonderful panels, discussion, and Q&A, at conclusion, we're going to have dinner, and we're asking that everybody please stay. We have a magnificent meal prepared for everyone here, and there's enough for everyone, and if we run out, we'll have more delivered before you even know. So we welcome you to stay and enjoy fellowship and dinner with us later on. I do want to acknowledge the executive board at this time. As I said, I'm the president, Elisa Wells. Our vice president is Dr. Eva Zygmunt. She's shy. Miss Renee Wagner is our secretary. She's on the way. Dr. Dia Bell. I know I saw Dr. Bell. Hi, Dr. Bell. Daniel Surf is the lone male in our group, and he works third shift, and so we excuse him when he can't make it to events that are this time because he's at home asleep. Miss Margot Middleton. Faith Surf, she'll be on the way as well. Yvonne Thompson, there she is in the back working as always. And Xana Williams. And Xana is on the way as well. At this time, I will hand the mic to this wonderful young lady. She happens to have, for a short amount of time, the same last name. She's my bonus daughter. I know we look like sisters. I tell my husband, wait a minute now. Veronica took on this challenge, and I will tell you, she has a day job. This is not her day job, and I will tell you she's done a phenomenal job with this. This is her passion. Her and Minister Willisha brought the idea of doing the circles with mental health circles and helping our youth, and we were all just absolutely on board. How can we help? And she took this along with Dr. Bell and Xana Williams, and they planned this event, and we just show up and eat. So I want to introduce you to Ms. Veronica Wells, soon to be Mrs. Veronica Wells Vaughn. Let's give her a round of applause.
Hello, everybody. As she said, I am Veronica Wells. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm so grateful to the panelists that decided to come and have that conversation with y'all. Can y'all hear me? My throat been a little janky lately. I might need one of y'all waters or something, but I'm gonna try to go off script. Miss Yvonne, do you have that one? Okay. I'm gonna try to just stick with the PowerPoint, you all, because I can go off script, I can. So I just wanna thank y'all for coming to this event. I'm hoping it's the beginning of, a long relationship with us in the community. Just wanna tell you guys a little bit about mental health, because that is why we're here. According to SAMHSA, some of you know that acronym, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, they define mental health as a health that includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So in a nutshell, it affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And it kind of helps us determine how we handle stress. We don't think about mental health disorders or mental disorders as, stress related to stress, but stress can be a symptom. It can be something that contributes, but we just call it stress. We don't think that we might have another issue behind it. So stress is in there. Having a mental health condition can make it a struggle to work, keep up with school, stick to a regular schedule, have healthy relationships, socialize, even maintain hygiene. I don't know if some of you thought about that one. You don't take a shower or a bath for like a week, there's probably something going on unless, you got stitches or something like that. And so just some things to keep in mind as I talk, as some of the panelists talk. Just think of some of the things in yourself and family members. According to the CDC, mental illness or mental disorders can occur at the same time. They can occur over a short period of time or be episodic. That means they come and go. So you might feel down for a few days and then you're good. You might feel anxious for a few days, maybe a week, then you're good. But they come and go. Some of them are long lasting. They stick around, they're ongoing. And so just, again, as you're listening to some of the information, be thinking about either yourself, family members, or friends. So I just wanted to give an idea of some mental disorders that we know of, that we call it the name maybe, but we don't think of it as a mental health disorder. We have ADD and ADHD, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, phobias. Anybody ever think of fear of snakes? Pastor Rob has a fear of snakes. But that's, there are some fears that keep us from doing stuff, right? And so that might be something. Then you have Alzheimer's disease, bereavement or grief. There's a lot of that going on, and a lot of us can't handle it on our own, right? We might need support. So there's a list of things, list of disorders. Just want you to kind of start thinking about it. Just to give some statistics, and then I'm almost out of here and done. More than 1 in 5 U.S. adults live with a mental illness. Just let that sit right there. 1 in 5 in the U.S. And this is according to the CDC. Over 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18, either currently or at some point during their life, have had a seriously debilitating mental illness. Just think about the youngins. They're struggling. We call them bad kids, right? But they might be struggling with something that they need more support. About 1 in 25 U.S. adults live with a serious mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. I know one thing that I was having a discussion with one of the panelists about what we call things. When we think about our family members, we don't think they have a mental health disorder. We call them crazy, or something is definitely wrong with them. But we don't think that's a mental health disorder sometimes, and they need some support. So just as we talk, as the panelists talk, I want you guys to think of questions, ask questions. I'm going to be handing out some index cards with pencils. Write them down for the question and answer period. So I'm going to stop talking. I think I've been up here longer than the 3 minutes I was giving myself. I'm just going to introduce the panelists. They're going to come and talk about themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves, what they do, and then you guys can ask questions after that, okay? So we have, and this is not in any order, okay? Catherine Mack, she's a licensed mental health counselor, LMHC. And I want you guys, I put these cards in front of them with the acronyms because sometimes those acronyms mess us up. Or the credentials, I won't call them acronyms, they're credentials. There are credentials, yes. Sometimes we don't know what in the world does that mean, right? So all of them have something different, but they all do therapy or counseling in some way, shape, or form. So that's what's important. Then we have Dr. Lena Burkhart. She's a licensed psychologist and director of the Counseling Practicum Clinic at Ball State University. We have Teresa Long. She's a licensed master level social worker of the Hope Chest. Help me, Teresa. Tacoma. I meant to get that from you before we started, and I just forgot. Olam Center. She said the rest of it, y'all. She said the rest. Demetria Jackson, she's a licensed marriage and family therapist of Frida Flourish Counseling and Consulting, LLC. Then we have Tara Gudger. She has a bachelor's of social work, and she works with youth at Northside Middle School. So they're going to speak. Once they're done, have some questions ready, and we'll give you guys some time to answer those. Okay? All righty. Thank you.
Oh, you know I'm not going first. You're just gonna make me go first, but that's fine. Like she said, I'm Teresa Long. I own Hope Chester Cumulum Center here in Muncie. Master level social worker. Working soon to receive my LCSW, so keep me in your prayers. I'm not, is this just introductions right now, or am I to kind of talk about myself, or? So, so I am a licensed social worker as a master level. So I have my master's degree. And so we take it's not really the terminal, it's an introductory license for social work. You guys don't have it from the psychology track, but we have that introduction license or whatever. And so it's the LSW. And so I have to, once I got that, I had to still practice for like 3,000 hours doing clinical therapy to be eligible for the LCSW, which is the terminal license. And so I've now completed all those hours, and I am studying to receive that terminal license.
Well, maybe I should have gone first so that we could go in proper order when it comes to social work. I am Tara Gudger, and I am a bachelor level social worker. So I have the beginning 4-year license, degree, excuse me. Now, however, I will be going back to school in the fall to get my master's in social work. Something I've put on hold for a very long time, but I think everything's lined up. And with all the work that I do at Northside, I might as well have a doctorate or something. Honorary, some Ball State. You listening, Dr. Eva? Let's get that together. I'll be going to Ball State. Chirp, chirp. You know, I get advanced standing, so I'm going to Ball State. So that's the gist of what my letters stand for.
I'm Kat Mack. I have my LMHC, which is the Licensed Mental Health Counselor. Kind of similar to what you were talking about. Ours is LMHCA, which just means associates, until we take our test. So I took my test last January. It's not fun. You got this. It's not fun. But I've been working at Open Door for about 4 years now as a licensed counselor. Oh, you can keep that. Yep.
Can you all hear me? Do I need to hold the microphone? Are we okay? Hold it closer. All right. How about this? I'll start messing with it and hitting and that sort of thing. So good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Lena Burkhart, and thank you all very much for having me and the rest of us here today. I use she, her pronouns. I am a licensed psychologist, so I have my doctoral degree in clinical psychology from the University of Virginia, and a master's degree in school psychology. And so the HSPP is for a health service provider in psychology. So Indiana makes you not only get your license as a psychologist, but add on an additional credential to be a health service provider in psychology. So that means sometimes with insurance companies, your billing can be different if you're an HSPP versus not having that. But honestly, in terms of service providers, anyone can provide counseling related services. It's mainly related to the degree and how much insurance company, sadly, may reimburse for services. I'm currently at the Ball State University Counseling Practicum Clinic, which I will talk to you all about later. It's a community clinic, and a lot of people don't realize that there is actually a community clinic. We do not see any Ball State students. It's just for the community. So I've been there now 6 years, almost 6 years.
Hello, I'm Demetria Jackson, and I am a LMFT. So this stands for Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist. And licensed marriage and family therapist, I have a master's degree, and we focus specifically, we can work with individuals. Some people feel like a marriage and family therapist, we just work with couples, but we actually work with individuals. I also work with individuals, adults, couples. In the past, I've worked with children. I did lots of family therapy. Marriage and family therapists typically are studying family systems theory. So we're looking not just at the individual, we're looking at systems like their family, their community, society. We're looking at all of the intersections that might be impacting mental health. So I am the owner of Free to Flourish Counseling and Consulting. It is a virtual psychotherapy practice. And I specialize working with adults, typically those adults that have trauma, anxiety, and depression. And I also work with couples with relational conflicts that might also be experiencing individual traumas that are impacting their family or even their couple relationship. So I'm glad to be here today.
Oh, there it goes. Just had to, wait. I just need to be patient. So if you guys, and again, any order, can tell us like the mental health disorders that you see in your work, what that looks like, what's maybe like one that takes priority over the other, whether it's like depression symptoms, anxiety, stress, maybe it's relationships. Tell us kind of what you see a lot of in your work.
Because I am kind of a specialist as an LMFT, my focus, I specifically work with those clients that have trauma, so post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorders is really big right now, especially post-COVID. It was really bad before COVID, so COVID actually made it a lot worse. So I see a lot of PTSD, anxiety disorders, and depression.
Started talking about trauma, so I'll do mine. I work predominantly with women ages like 20 to 40 and people from historically marginalized people groups. So I do a lot of trauma. I do a lot of PTSD. I was trained in EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a lot of words for basically teaching the body how to process the trauma they've experienced. Understand it better, and not have the same trauma reaction the next time. So I also work with a lot of sexual assault survivors. I work a lot with borderline personality disorder. I do a lot of interpersonal stuff just because trauma affects so much of us relationally. And so it wasn't like what I intended on going into, but yeah, I do a lot with relationship issues.
So same here, a lot of trauma. Something that's a little different, I've been getting a lot of children that have been affected by autism, on that autism spectrum. So I didn't really realize how prominent that was. It's really, since they moved they put it on a spectrum, so it's a lot. And so I do a lot of that recently. I work with like a lot of families, parenting strategies. I see a lot of behaviors in school, so I do some work at Longfellow and Grissom, just kind of sporadically. And so I work with a lot of behavior, children who have ADHD, and I work with the parents because a lot of times the parents, don't understand the diagnosis, and they do not, necessarily know how to, what I call being consistent, firm, and fair, and just kind of sticking, getting the kids on a schedule and things like that. So I do a lot of parenting, ADHD, trauma, post-traumatic stress. What else have I seen? I have worked with DCS, so I do a lot of DCS cases, foster care. Unfortunately, I deal with parents, who are in trouble with, losing their parental rights. And so I go to court, I testify. Actually, I went to court today, and I was like, wow. And so that's, something that is a little different when you have to testify and possibly call someone to, well, the parent, didn't do it, but it's hard when you are, a key witness, and your testimony will, make or break someone, losing their parental rights. And so I'm trying to think what else that's probably, just with the rest of, the anxiety, like Demetria alluded to, the anxiety is like on high. Like she said, post-COVID, it was already, so we see a tremendous amount of anxiety.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things and situations and diagnosis. I don't diagnose because I'm a bachelor's level social worker. And we don't diagnose in schools anyway. That's what testing is for. However, we do have a lot of students. I work at Northside Middle School, so I'm with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And the trauma that and experiences that the families go through and the parents experience all falls on the children. So again, we have all talked about post-COVID, pre-COVID. Anxiety is major in the schools when you're talking about kids with testing and just social, emotional type of situations that kids did not have for about 2 years. They didn't know how to sit side by side and touch and say, hey, how are you? Everything was here on the phone, and it still is on the phone. So I work with kids that have been diagnosed with clinical depression, anxiety. We've got a lot of kids who I've worked with who have been sexually abused, who have experienced physical abuse. There's been a lot of death lately, and so a lot of kids are still dealing with that. And my goal, working not only with the kids, but I also work with the parents in helping them to understand that getting their child counseling or therapy with the right person is very necessary. I do know that I have to kind of work in circles a lot of times with the Black community because even though you see women of color up here, a lot of times Black people don't want someone else in their business. And I will tell you that counseling and therapy is not about being in your business. It's about helping you to get the necessary tools so that you can work through the trauma, work through the anxiety. It just gives you stuff in your toolbox. That's what we tell the kids. You got to put something in your toolbox so that if a situation arises, you can work through it. And being able to talk through those things. So I do also in the building something called restorative justice. It's very big. It's starting to become more widely used because of the fact that kids and people did not have a lot of help with conflict resolution during COVID because we didn't have to see each other face to face. People got real bold behind phones and computers and could say whatever they wanted to say, and then when you had to see them face to face, it might have turned into something you didn't want it to turn into. And that's what happens every day in schools. So we get kids who say stuff, and we've got to teach them that everything is not about physical violence, verbal aggression. So what we do with restorative justice is we allow a person who has been harmed to be able to sit with a person who has harmed them. And I am usually the mediator to that. But what it does is you go through steps where we have to be able to hear from the other person what the problem is based on my perception. Because I tell the kids and I tell adults every day, perception is reality. And if this is what I feel, I just need to be heard. So when you sit in a restorative circle, you sit, you're able to face one another, you're able to make eye contact and communicate. But also what the kids do is they come up with their own resolution. Because with traditional discipline, that worked for most of us sitting here in this room because we were either afraid of what was going to happen when we got home or, yeah, we were just afraid. I could be nice about it, but we were afraid. We were afraid. And so what it does is it allows for the students, but also I do restorative with adults. So the staff members have also had restoratives with students. Because an adult, we are adults, we're not perfect, we're human beings. So we all make mistakes. And I may not speak to you in the proper tone, or I may not approach you the right way. And so I have to sit down with the group, or one person one-on-one, and they have to be able to come up with, okay, this is what you said to me and this hurt my feelings. And I need you to recognize that. And a lot of times what we do, especially when it comes to the kids, they find out that, wow, I have way more in common with you than I realized. Or we have the same types of issues, and if we just sit down and kind of go over it, maybe we can support one another. So it really helps, but we also find with discipline that instead of doing just the traditional discipline where it's, you hit her, so bye, you're gone, let me wipe my hands. We don't know why she hit her. We don't know why he cussed her out. Because it happens. But anyone that works in education knows that it's not about just teaching kids anymore. We are mothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles. We become a lot of things, a safe haven, but a way to show kids and help kids to have a voice in the proper way. But I could go on and on about it because kids every day are just going through so much. I mean, think about it. You're an adult, and you've got bills to pay. You've got kids to provide for. You may have a problem that you're keeping from everybody, so that's like this. But the kids come to school, and parents think kids don't know. Kids know. And so when they come to school, we get that. And every day I spend my days talking to a kid, either one-on-one or in a group, about whatever that conflict is. I've even had to refer kids out because, again, my level only goes so far. And so we will refer kids to Open Door. Oh, too much. Oh, I'm sorry, real quick. No, okay, I was like, okay, I'm sorry. But I refer kids out to Open Door. We've referred to Ball State Center. I think I've even called Ms. Demetria down there a few times because we have to work together as a village. We do have behavioral clinicians in our building, and you might hear those as BCs. They work on behavioral issues or things where in the classroom, they go in the classroom, work with kids, see what the tone is in the room, and sort of give, kids things to put in their toolboxes. They help teachers as well. We also have family navigators now in Muntz Community Schools, which is a great addition because they do a macro system where they work with the entire family, not just focusing on the kid. Who else do we have in our buildings? We have a lot, but I'm gonna pass it over to Dr. Lena, who I love, y'all. Everybody, I know everyone on the panel except her, but we're gonna get to know each other. So I'm gonna pass it to you.
It's now a good time for me to maybe talk about our clinic so I can put the response in context maybe a little bit more. So, who knew that we existed? Did anybody here know? Got 1, 2, 3, 4 people. So, the clinic has been around for about 54 years. Can you believe that? And my mission since I have been at this job is to get the word out. We are the best kept secret that doesn't want to be a secret, right? And so I was so thrilled when I heard about this. So our clinic is very unique. I think when people hear about our clinic, they think that's for Ball State students. So Ball State does have a counseling center for just Ball State students. So I'm working on the name. I think we need to change our name personally because it's too confusing. So there's the Ball State Counseling Center, and we are the Counseling Practicum Clinic. Needs to change, right? So that's part of the confusion, I think. So we are community facing 100%. We actually, the Counseling Center does not want us to see any Ball State students. They want to just see them there. So we serve the Ball State the Muncie community and the surrounding areas. Basically, anyone that's in Indiana, we can serve because we provide telehealth services. And that's awesome because we are a low-cost clinic. So our sessions cost $25 a session. However, we have a sliding scale for anyone who can't comfortably afford that, and we will slide it down to 20, 15, 10, 5, $1. We will not turn anyone away for an inability to pay for services, period. You don't have to humiliate yourself by showing how much money you make and what your bills are and proving X, Y, and Z. Honestly, it's what can you pay, and we go with that. And so I hope if nothing else, you all can remember that and share that with people. You can have insurance still come to us. No insurance still come to us, right? So anyone. We work with people of all ages. So I think 5 is probably our youngest client that we're seeing right now. And I think we got about 87 for our oldest. So across the entire lifespan, we work with and provide individual counseling services, family counseling, couples counseling services as well. Not as much. We primarily provide individual counseling services. So our clinic is a training clinic. And so I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about that because I think some people think if you come to our clinic, you're going to have an undergraduate student who doesn't know anything trying to help you, and how can they help me, right? I've been around the block a few times. They couldn't possibly know my life, lived experiences. I don't want to go there. So we have, all of our students already have their bachelor's degree. They've already completed 4 years of college. And are coming to earn either their master's degree or their doctoral degree. So master's degree in counseling or a doctoral degree in counseling psychology. So they are well trained before they get to the part of sitting down across from you or sitting on the screen with you. So calling them a student, for some of them, they could be licensed at the master's level. I think, though, some people think because you're a student, you don't know too much yet. I think we're all a student of life personally, right? We're always learning. That's right? So they are all supervised by licensed individuals. So predominantly our faculty are licensed psychologists, but we do have licensed master's level counselor that is also supervising right now. And you will have so much support coming indirectly to support you. So that if you're thinking, do I really want to work with a student? These students are passionate and committed to learning and wanting to support you. They will spend hours trying to plan for and discuss with their supervisors how to best support you. Now, us licensed folks, I'm going to be honest, we're not spending hours preparing. it's the truth of the matter, right? And so when you think about it that way, you're going to have a team supporting you, even though you're only meeting with one individual, and that are invested. So I just share all of that, so hopefully to boost your confidence some in our clinic and coming and trying. We have faculty members coming to our clinic that could go anywhere. They come to our clinic, they bring their children. We have people from the community of all walks of life. So we welcome everyone, we respect everyone, no one's turned away. In terms of now the actual question that you answered, I'm sorry. We work with anything and everything, truly. And so yes, mental health disorders, but I think a lot of times that can limit people from pursuing counseling because you think, well, I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad off. I don't have it like Susie down the road. She now, she needs counseling, but I don't need counseling, right? So it's forever. So could be basic stress. I'm overworked, right? It could be just these children is working my nerves and I need somebody to talk to and help me out about it. No diagnosable anything. Right? Doesn't have to be that severe. In terms of maybe adjustment, you have a new job. Maybe you lost your job and you're worried about insecurity and financial insecurity and what am I going to do? Maybe you've had a separation and you're spinning, not sure where to go, what you need, how to get support. So counseling is truly, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about what it looks like, I think, a little bit later. But I just want to, I can't emphasize enough that those are the type of concerns that we see a lot of. Career counseling. Maybe you're wanting to rethink, what am I doing with my life? Maybe I want to shift, change, or you're a younger individual and you're not sure what you want to do. Help me figure this out, right? So we can provide career counseling as well. And then any mental health concern is on a spectrum. It's truly on a spectrum, right? And so depression, when we talk about clinical depression, right, where maybe an individual can't get out of the bed, can't function, not bathing, severe, but we can just have, I'm just sad, I don't know what's going on. I'm still functioning, going to work, taking care of my family, cleaning the house, taking care of my personal hygiene, but I just feel like there's a cloud following me around and I'm not sure why. Right? So that spectrum and anything in between. Anxiety for sure. Anxiety and depression, we talk about them almost like they're the same thing. It's always kind of anxiety and depression. But truly, I would say for sure, that tends to be a piece often of what people, usually it's not one thing people are coming. It's a list of different things and combined together, right? Trauma, sadly, really has increased, I would say. Just more and more, some level of trauma at some point in your life. So it could be someone's coming in 63 years old, but never got a chance to process and talk about the abuse they experienced as a child at home, sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect. It could be, so the trauma, and trauma can be not just the great big things, right? So I think sometimes, again, the major issues that haven't been traumatized because I didn't experience that, but it can look very different for different people, right? That maybe that doesn't fit this person's definition of trauma, but it was very traumatic and upsetting and difficult and challenging for me, and I can't sleep at night and I'm thinking about it, right? So that is definitely a big part, I would say, of what we see. We definitely see individuals who identify with, on the LGBTQ spectrum and supporting those individuals in our clinic. We're seen as a safe place where people can come in order to be able to talk about those things. And that's increasing. So I would say more so there. Health, just health conditions. We have, anybody familiar with the Martin Center in Indianapolis? So we have a partnership with the Martin Center where we provide free counseling services to anyone referred to us. So the Martin Center is focused specifically on individuals diagnosed with sickle cell anemia or their family members who are supporting maybe an individual diagnosed with sickle cell. So we provide supportive counseling free of charge for those individuals. So pretty much life. Anything related to a challenge, a difficulty related to life is what we will see in the clinic. The one thing that really our clinic is not designed to address are substance use related challenges. So we feel strongly that you need to go to someone who specializes in that type of work. However, let's say someone is going to treatment, they're getting help, but they have some depression as well. We can work with you on that piece as long as you're getting this piece taken care of too, somewhere else. But if that's exclusively what you're looking for, then you would be better served going somewhere in a community, and then that's when we will help refer people to community places.
Hello. Okay, there I am. Okay, so you guys have talked a lot. One, I'm glad that trauma came up. And I wanted Tara to come just specifically to give us a view into the lives of children, because they're up here, we're all adults. They're not representing themselves like a peer. So I really am glad that she came, and I hope we all know, should I be standing? You know what? Let me go stand up. Hopefully we all are thinking about our children, our youth, but I really do want us to know that children are struggling. Parents are struggling. I know, RJ, you struggling too. I know. Parents are struggling, but just think about that. It's not just you. Your kids are struggling with you, even if they don't say anything. So that means it's kind of double. It's kind of double for them sometimes. So glad that you guys are able to talk about that. The question I want to ask, and then I think we're going to try to hand it over for some question and answers from the audience. When you think of the changes in mental health that bring people to your office, can you tell us what that looks like? For instance, somebody is saying, I'm so overwhelmed, I couldn't do this. Because a lot of times it's when you can't function anymore, right? You can't go to work, you stop going to work. So what does that look like specifically when people come into your office? Because a lot of us might have some stuff going on at home. We might look at family members, friends, and we don't even realize, okay, they really probably all this stuff. What does it look like? And you can think of specific people, several people, but just trying to give us a description of what does that look like? What does a person look like? Without names, of course, we all know. Without any descriptive, information, because, Muncie's small. Okay, Muncie's small. But, just what does that look like for individuals when they come in? And then after we're done going through, we'll open it up for questions and answers, okay?
Are you talking about what does an average session look like, or the average care?
The session and the care.
Okay, I took notes because I'm pregnant and can't remember anything right now at all. So I work at Open Door. Because I do trauma-focused care, typically care is longer. First of all, you're having to build rapport with people. I'm clearly very white, and I have a lot of clients who are not. And so building trust takes a minute. Building rapport takes a minute. Like what you were saying earlier about being in someone's business, and it's like different communities communicate different ways. And so just takes a minute. But I do about 45 to 60-minute sessions. Some of my more severe clients are more weekly, but I do a lot of biweekly and monthly therapy. And the goal is to get you from weekly to biweekly to monthly to every 6 months you come and see me, we do a checkup. So the goal is to not be in therapy because therapy worked. I have seen a lot. Now, the pandemic affected a lot of things, especially with telehealth, but I have noticed more issues in my clients, less of the pandemic and more of the current political climate going on, and police brutality, and issues with women's rights. That's more of what I've seen. There is definitely the health anxiety and the a lot of grief and loss because a lot of people lost a lot of family. But yeah, so I see more of the other side of that coin of just I'm terrified to be living here. and I don't have a lot of reassurance for that. We just work through it because, yeah. Okay, so, but I have seen from my clients just a lot of change in their ability to trust, creating healthy relationships, actually setting boundaries for the first time in their life, like setting, creating, and then maintaining a boundary is amazing to see. People reporting sexual assault, but people also choosing to not report assault, and having those conversations very openly. Being able to share trauma details that they've never told anyone before. Because usually when something like that happens, I don't want to tell my friends, I don't want to tell my family, I don't want anyone else to know this horrible thing about me. And it's like, no, it happened to you. You did not do anything. But because this disgusting, horrible thing happened, you absorbed that. You took that in on you, and so you don't want to talk about it. So therapy is often, what you're talking about with therapy is like, one of the things I love about it is you come in, you can dump, you can express these things that you don't want another living soul to know, and then you leave. And they can't tell anybody because of HIPAA. They cannot say anything. So, I've had a lot of clients grow in their confrontation skills, like being able to actually have healthy conflict. In general, just quality of life improvements. Like I said, I do EMDR. It's a great resource to decrease nightmares, to decrease flashbacks. I have a lot of clients who have seen a lot of gun violence, who have seen a lot of, or had physical abuse, witnessed domestic violence, especially against mothers, and it's terrifying them still today. Like, I don't work with kids. I can't do it. It's too sad. I don't know how you do it, but I work with them 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. It's still there. It doesn't just go away because you're not living in that house. So I've used EMDR a lot to mostly just really decrease the panic that people express, because trauma doesn't logically make sense. It shouldn't have happened, and emotionally it's too much. I can't hold it. And so our brain creates negative core beliefs where it's like, well, it must have been my fault. I am bad, I am disgusting, I am dirty, pick any nasty word. I am this, and so I deserved it. And so the goal is to take those negative core beliefs and create more of an adaptive belief of like, I survived, I'm still here, I'm doing okay. It doesn't have to be like I am Beyonce. Like, it can be, I am doing better. I'm keeping a job. My kids don't hate me. Well, like, in a bad way. Like, kids are supposed to hate their parents a little bit, because then you're a good parent. But I also run a trauma group right now, and I've seen a lot of change in interpersonal skills and just being able to not be the only person in the room that you assume has gone through this. Like, you are surrounded by 8 other really traumatized people, and it's like, oh, this person actually gets what I'm saying. I'm not used to that. I thought I was the only one. I thought I was alone. I thought this. But yeah, so the way our counseling center works is we are integrative care, which is phenomenal. We have medical, we have dental, we have chiropractic, we have pain management. I'm just looking at Courtney if I'm forgetting one. OB, we have everything connected with behavioral health. So like, I can talk to their doctor. I get permission, but like, I can communicate with their medication person. So because of that though, our wait list is astronomical. We have like a 2-month wait list for adults right now. Our kid wait list is actually a lot shorter than normal. But you have to be an open door medical client before you can get a referral for behavioral health. And I think a lot of people don't even really know we exist. I think we're kind of getting out there a little bit. When I started, there were only 3 of us, and now there's like 30-something of us. So the department's really grown. But you do have to go medical first, and a lot of people are already medical patients at Open Door because we're huge. So, but yeah, that's kind of the process, and then you would get put with a counselor based on your needs and based on what their specialty is.
Okay, ask the question one more time.
I talked for a really long time, I'm sorry.
What does a typical session look like?
Yeah, what is the presentation, and then what kind of experiences our patients or clients bring into you?
Okay, so a typical session for me, like Kat mentioned, it's that building that therapeutic alliance, that trust factor, because you really can't, work with people if you don't have that rapport built. And so one of the things that social workers do, that's kind of different. Like social worker is kind of broad, so we can kind of work in a lot of different areas. We can do micro, meso, and macro. So we do a lot of advocacy, like if someone is being, if they need help with getting food stamps and, there's a barrier, and so there's something that is hindering, and so social workers can go in and we can advocate and make sure that our clients are connected with the resources that they need and that they deserve, because it's a lot of barriers that we're dealing with, a lot of microaggressions. It's just a lot going on. So social workers can do that. We can advocate for policies. So we can, go, that's actually my thing. I really love policy. I love it. Looking at how a policy affects the community. So I'm on a committee, JDAI, and so this committee is committed to lowering the number of black and brown children being put into detention. And so one of the assignments that we had to do is look at the intake, look at, the paperwork and see what barriers are, or what things create barriers for certain demographics. And so I like to look at that. There's something called a family preservation. There's a big federal law. I go in, I review that and see how that affects, on a community level. So we do a lot. But just a typical session for me, I wrote it down here because like Kat, I wanted to make sure that I, kind of stay on task. But so when they first come in, we do something called acknowledge. We acknowledge the situation that they're going through. We either validate it, we normalize it. Because, like sometimes people can be all over the place. And, we kind of have to ground them and bring them in to things that are normal to other people. So we do that. Then after we do that, but before we do the solidifying of the therapeutic alliance. And then we actually start the exploration process. So we start exploring and, listening to them, asking open-ended questions and getting all the information. And we do that for something called, we do social workers, I'm pretty sure you all do like a psychosocial, spiritual, yeah, so it's like a comprehensive assessment, biological. So we get if there's health issues, family issues, because we look at things from a system perspective. We understand that when something is broken, one system it affects all other systems. So we get the whole, spectrum, so we can kind of see and pinpoint. And so after we explore, we assess. We start doing our assessment, and then we identify. So we, along with the client, we help them to identify whatever the presenting issue is. Like the counselor doesn't be like, oh, you need to work on this or you need to work on that. The client, partakes in that. And so we identify the problem, and then after we do that, we have to do some clarifications to work on the treatment plan and things like that. And then if it's out of our scope, like the doctor mentioned, some things are out of our scope, and so we have to be competent enough to refer out when we don't have the speciality to treat that client. And so that's pretty much what like a typical session looks like. I'm trained in something called trauma-focused CBT, and so that's basically it's children under, I think it's between the ages of maybe 7 and 17 specifically, and so there's a whole component with that. There's like a narrative component where we actually go in and the kids rewrite their story as far as the trauma is concerned, to turn it into, something that is victorious. CBT, we deal with like thoughts, feelings, and actions. So we help the client understand that, your thoughts will elicit a feeling, and the feelings, you will react. And so because I kind of focus on that a whole lot, CBT, I do a lot of insight-oriented therapy. I see people, when I take them through the different processes, they kind of like become alive. They're like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't even understood, I didn't understand how, I was feeling this way, and then, I acted out. So to see that is just like, when they make those synapses connections in their brain, it's really, it's rewarding. And then when they're able to, to sustain it, that's the issue, because they do well in session, but then to be able to really progress, they need to be able to sustain the tools that we're giving them. And so we do like different measuring things, just kind of assessments and things like that to see how the client is progressing. So the advocacy part is huge, because we can work with like community groups. So, Kat mentioned she does focus groups and things like that. And so we can go into, a community agency. And so if a community is dealing with, high crime, or for instance, we had an issue with organization wanted to put a lot of, what are those, Narcan. So Narcan's in our community. And so a lot of the community was like, we don't want that in our community. What is that going to look like for Whiteley and things like that? And so, being able to, I got approached, and I was like, hey, that's not my thing. You got to talk to like Whiteley Community Council. So I referred out, but I did have I was like, okay, so what does that look like as a community? If we have all these Narcans, people can be able to get them with that, encourage them to, continue on the drug use, or would that, you know what I'm saying? So I had a lot of questions. So from a community wide basis, we're able to meet with groups, do parenting groups, like I said earlier, and we can actually go through the parenting group, because the group is the actual therapy, because everything, the group pretty much elicits the therapy. And so we bring everything back to the group. And so we kind of heal from a social standpoint by sharing our experiences and things like that. But just to see clients, like the light bulb comes on, and to see, especially with the kids. I do work with a lot of kids. I love kids. Children and family is my niche. Because I really believe that everything, what we say, everything starts at home. I really believe that. I love, working with families, regardless if it's, a nuclear family, if it's, a broken family, if it's just a single parent home, it's still a family, and just kind of working with all those dynamics to make sure that you create, or the family is able to create an environment for the child and the family as a whole to grow and to thrive and to reproduce in. So.
Okay, I'm gonna jump on in here. We're gonna open the floor up for some questions and answers, and if we have more time, I'll come back, because I really do want to hear about family therapy a little bit, because we have a lot of families here. So anybody who does the family therapy, want to be able to hear about that. But you will also be able to talk about it if you eat dinner. So if you missed a chance to get up and talk again, I'm sorry, I should have stood up. That sleep monster, you guys, that sleep monster. So I just want to open the floor up really quick. Anybody have any questions? You had it. You need this. You need this mic. You need the mic. Everybody, we need the mic. So I'm gonna walk real slow to you. No, where'd she go?
I have a question. Do any of your services offer for veterans if they have an outside resource?
And that's for anybody.
Most certainly. Definitely.
My question is just simple. With all the work that you do, all the counseling that you do, how do you debrief? What kind of trauma-informed care do you use for yourself?
I can share a little bit about that. I think as therapists, and someone had asked a question earlier about the typical client, there's no such thing as a typical client. I think you have to be very comfortable with recognizing that we are all human beings, we all have limited capacity. And so I chose, because I'm a solo provider, so I don't work at a group practice anymore, I don't work in residential anymore, I don't work with kids anymore. Like, I've made a shift because of the burnout that is connected to psychotherapists. So I'm able to have flexibility, I'm able to see my ideal client. And so the reality is when you're dealing with trauma, even hearing stories of trauma all day, every day can impact you. So as therapists, we have our own groups, our own therapists that we see that can help support you in making sure you are living that balanced life. And so we're practicing what we preach. So we're not being hypocritical, telling you to do something that we ourselves are not living.
So for me, Demetria does, what is it that you did on me?
EMDR and brain spotting.
Brain spotting. So Demetria and I have a relationship. And so I was like, hey, bring your brain spotting wand. I want you to do that on me. And so it's really like, I have a lot of therapist friends. So, we actually kind of, debrief on each other or whatever. But I just said the other day, when she was all like, I'm going to go to the Ball State Counseling Center. Because I was like, because we really do need our own therapy. And so right now I'm so busy. So I just kind of do a side thing, and I'll call Demetria, I'll call Kim, I'll be like, hey, I'm going through this. Because honestly, when I was in my master's program, I actually started having a lot of things that was going on. Like even when I was doing my internship, my body started manifesting stuff. I started pulling out my hair and, all kinds of stuff because of the stress that I was under. And so it's very important to me for my own mental health that I, do what I need to do. If I don't have time to get to a counselor, which I'm coming. I use my friends. And so she did that brain spotting thing on me. It was really, really cool. I really liked it. She'll probably tell you about it because I don't know a lot, but it was, really cool. It helped identify different traumas and things like that.
I'll say shout out to my husband in the back. We have code words for if I've had a really bad day, I just text him coming in hot. So he knows I'm coming in hot. It's been a bad day. Because if I don't, it's really bad for you. Because he's just like the most chill dude. So if I come in hot, he's like, what's going on? But it's like having a built-in support system that knows you and that says you are not okay today. And I'm not going to tell him anything specific because HIPAA. I'm not trying to lose my job. But also the coworkers I have are phenomenal. And if we have a no-show, if we have someone who cancels, if we have that lunch break, I know what I want to do is nap in my office or sit in my office by myself and be sad. But like what I need is to go talk to other therapists who get it, who I can consult with. And it's also, a lot of like, if I don't know where to go with a client, asking for help. I think that, and then just also like having a community that's completely outside of your job. Like we have a pretty tight-knit community that we've created in Muncie. So it's like, no, we're going to a friend's house tonight. We're doing this other thing, leaving work at work. I do not, every once in a while, but I usually don't bring notes home. Like my goal is like, I'm just going to be behind tomorrow and that has to be okay because I can't bring it home. Because if I bring it home, then it's more and more and more time that it's not about me being okay. And I have to do that because then I'm going to be a terrible therapist the next day if I take it home. But yeah.
We had another question.
Thank you guys so much. This is great information. I had a conversation with a colleague today, and they told me that We were talking about death by suicide, and there seems to be an increase. She's a young adult, and she told me that it has been idolized among young people, that it's actually trending. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that, just, kind of what you feel about the increase in death by suicide.
Okay. There's a lot to there's layers to that. And so I think a lot of times when you're dealing with suicidal ideation versus suicide attempts, right? Being aware that a lot of times with suicide, there is depression, there is anxiety, there is suppression of activating events. So by the time a person gets to the point that they want to commit suicide, they've been hopeless for some period of time, and suicide feels like the answer to escape pain. Okay? So I really feel like as a psychotherapist, one thing that I want all of you to be aware of when it comes to your mental health, it is not something to play around with. It is not something to ignore. I often see, when people call, I need to be seen. The first thing is to really assess, hey, like, what's going on? What is it that you need? What type of support do you need? Have you been in therapy? So early on, I'm doing kind of a phone consultation, right? Because the reality is, if you have been in bed for 6 weeks, you haven't gotten out of bed, you're past the point of therapy at this point. You need to see a doctor, or you need to have intensive services, or if you are actively suicidal with, you have a plan, you need to go to ER. Right? And so that's what happens a lot when people, it's like, I don't want to go to therapy because I'm afraid that they're going to send me to ER. That really means you've been dealing with mental health issues for a significant period of time, and there is no one-size-fits-all therapy, right? When there is suicidal ideation or a suicide attempt, we are in crisis mode. And so crisis mode is very different from a therapeutic relationship and learning coping skills. We're past that point. Now, once you have been released from the hospital, if they've recommended intensive outpatient therapy, that's where you're going to therapy every day for 4 weeks or 6 weeks. When you're in that phase, we're not in that high level. Dr. Lena talked about that severe depression. Part of our job as therapists is to do adequate assessment early on. What are the symptoms that you're having? We're going through that assessment very early to make sure you're the right fit, okay? So suicide prevention is really about early mental health intervention. Right? We don't want to wait till you're, at that breaking point. And I think for people of color, we are so used to, it's part of our identity. I think even as being women and men of faith, to be strong and to believe, and we kind of use that as a coping skill that keeps us in denial from really, truly saying, I need help. It doesn't mean that I'm weak. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me inherently, but I need support. That part of your humanity is knowing that you need support just like anybody else, okay? So hopefully that might give you some, insight about suicide prevention and intervention.
I'll add on a little bit too. That was great. That was great information. I can't believe we hadn't said that before. And mentioned, because that's actually one of the things when you say an increase in what we are seeing, like what types of things are people struggling with, I don't know if I want to be here, right? Who is familiar with 988? Anyone? Yes, wonderful. This is good. So we all know 911. So I've got some magnets up here and some other information. Please take for yourselves or to give to other people. But 988 is now the kind of like the equivalent to 911. So if you are having mental health crisis that Ms. Dimitri was talking about, maybe to the point of wanting to act on harming yourself, killing yourself, hurting yourself. This is 24/7. It doesn't have to be that severe either, right? It could be anywhere on that continuum that we were talking about. But 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's free. You can do it anonymously. You can call from a landline. You can call from your cell phone. There's also a chat. So if we got to realize younger folk, they might want to text or chat online, right? So that's available too. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. I also want to say too, everything is really on I keep saying the same thing over, and I don't mean to, but a spectrum and a continuum. So we have the severe, right, level that people who've waited too long, but we also have thoughts of, I'm just, you know what, I don't know if I want to wake up tomorrow, right? Or maybe if I just got in a car wreck, I think it'd be all right, and if I didn't live, right? Those are still warning signs and of concern for everyone to listen and pay attention to, right? It doesn't have to be, I have a gun and I want to kill myself right now. Now, I also want to say too, though, it is not abnormal to have those thoughts. So I think sometimes oh my gosh, I had this thought right now. I'm a bad person. Oh my goodness, what do I need to do? And that is not abnormal. I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm saying you're not alone in that. There are a lot of people who experience those types of thoughts. And let that be the indicator. It's time for me to do something. It's time for me to reach out, right? Please, if you hear anyone talking in that way, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Truly, truly is. If a young person says that to you, please don't say they just want attention. Because here's my thing. If they do just want attention, let's think about the fact that they feel like they have to go to that level to say, I'm going to kill myself to get attention. Either way, we're concerned. Either way, right? So we have to. And imagine then, if I say that and you still do nothing, I tear up thinking about it, right? And it happens all the time, right? If I have to go to that extreme, I'm trying to let you know I'm not okay, right? And you still do nothing, then what does that say? So please, and you don't have to know what to do yourself, just know where to turn. Just know where to turn. And we're here to say, if you don't know where to turn, reach out to us. Call 988. We will help you. Yeah, you want to say? Yes.
Track it. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that the 988 took place of the old suicide hotline, so there's still a tracking system where you can flag if somebody's, out there and really need help, like right now, that you can get to them.
Right.
Okay. Then my next question is, just because of the line of work that I do, I do referrals for people to go get counseling, but I don't know why I can detect, because some people just won't come out and say, I need help. So one of the coaching tools I learned was, what does this look like to you? Or do you feel like if you had that type of service available, would you utilize it? And most of them would say yes. So.
Yeah. I do want to just say one thing real quick. So the tracking might freak some people out. So it's not a tracking in terms of now they know me and who I am and where I live, and people are keeping track and know I have some issues or concerns, right? So it's not that. It is if someone is in crisis in the moment and maybe going to say, I'm going to do this right now to hurt myself or kill myself, they can get help to you quickly. So I just wanted to.
Can I tap in real quick with the Elisa's question, because this is very, very serious. So like the doctor said, all of us have to make sure that we're paying attention to these signs. One of the things that happens with anxiety a lot of us, like I mentioned earlier, are in overdrive. Our anxiety is in overdrive, and that fight or flight is in overdrive. You can be in such an overdrive that you begin to think illogically, and it can happen to any one of us. Like if we're overstressed, overworked, you literally can be awake but sleep because your fight or flight system is just totally out of whack. And so for us, like all of us, we really need to make sure that we are self-aware and really take part in self-care, because anybody can have a, you know what I'm saying, like at that breaking point. You can be at that breaking point. And so self-care is key. And then it takes a support system, a village, that connection. A lot of the people who have suicide ideation, or they have a plan, or they have attempted or parasuicide, they don't have those connections in place. And so again, please, I see people on Facebook anytime they're saying something that's suicide, I'll be like, I'm inboxing like, you okay? And I don't take it for, people saying they just want attention and things like that. So I just want to throw that out there. Really pay attention to yourself, self-care, okay?
I just want to real quickly say, because I work with kids, and since Miss Elisa brought up a young adult, personally, every day I deal with at least one kid in the building that brings up suicidal ideation. We have had at Northside alone at least a handful, and that's a handful too many, who have had to be admitted in clinics that are not even in Delaware County because it doesn't exist here. So they've had to go to Richmond, they've had to go to Indianapolis. And one thing I want to say to any parent that's listening, please listen to your child. Don't brush it off. Don't act like it's not serious, because even if they don't have a plan at that moment, like Ms. Demetria was saying, you don't know what they're thinking. And to just be like, oh, go on, you'll be all right. I've had kids say that to me, that is what their parents have said to them. And personally for me, I have a 17-year-old daughter who contemplated suicide. And it was, for me, working with kids every day and didn't see it in my own child. So I'm going to tell y'all, it's real, and it does happen to black people. And I need people to know that, because my daughter sees a psychiatrist twice a month. And she's making progress, but I still, every day, I have that worry, because I'm a single parent, so I've got to go to work. My daughter is at home, still recuperating from a major accident. And one day she could be sitting there and take her life. So I'm doing everything that I can do, but I just want people to understand that, just like what Miss Elisa was saying, sometimes these things do happen, and then we, instead of doing things on the front end of helping our kids, we begin to sensationalize suicide. We have to be very careful. And we've had situations like that here in Delaware County alone. And I've had to talk to kids, and I've had to work with kids who are close to that. Just please listen. Don't brush them off. And again, there are services that if you don't have the finances, just reach out to someone. Go to that child's school and say, help me help my child. Don't get mad at us if we call you and say that your child is an active suicide. They have a means, they have a plan, and they have access. Don't get mad. Say thank you. Where's my child? That's all I have to say. Sorry.
I was going to share, but that was better, so.
Okay, Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
If you don't have a support system, how do you get one?
That's a good question.
So I actually just talked to someone yesterday about that. You know, she was like, I don't have family. You know, my mom died when I was young. My grandma raised me. She died. I'm an only child. I don't have anybody. And so I told her, okay, so then what community are you in? What resources are in your community? Is there a community center? Is there a church? What's the schools that your kids go to? Because there's, you know, support through the school. So you have to look for support. There is support in a community, especially Whiteley. Like if you're connected to Whiteley, there are so many supports here. And with Union, there's, you know, your local church. That's your, you know, that's your connector, and you got to connect with people, and you have to get with somebody that you feel safe with and that you can trust. And so you have to, there's work to do on your part, but there are a lot of community services out there. And so I would ask where you go to the doctor, you know, your doctor, what, you know, just ask in your church. But there's a lot of support, especially in this community.
So that someone that's unfamiliar with this would have a quick access of places that are actually taking places that are taking patients that you don't have to wait 2 months. Is there a clearinghouse that could be put on Facebook that says, here in Muncie, if you're having any of these issues, bam, 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 you can get into these? Because if you're not connected with anyone, you can go there and see where your options are. Because if you don't know the questions to ask, if you've never been there and you don't know how to reach out and you don't know how to do it. Yeah. There used to be a Yellow Pages. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's a disconnect that if you're alone, you don't know how to ask.
Yeah. Dr. Lena, I know you can answer that way better than me as far as services, but I do know that you can dial 211, and that service will connect you with anything in the state of Indiana. Also, there is a wonderful organization here, Firefly, that was Children's Bureau. We at schools do referrals all the time. I've done referrals for over a decade to them for family services, counseling, whatever, childcare, whatever you need, it's out there. Pick up your phone, dial 211, and someone will answer that phone either in English or in Spanish. Well, they'll answer in English and then ask you if you need Spanish. Well, and again, we can through what we're doing here, make that available. But again, asking any school, any agency, you wouldn't even need to have to connect. A medical provider, a doctor's office, everyone in this state has access to 211. And I'm talking about us as professionals, but for a lay person who wouldn't know, walk into anybody's office, they should know about 211. They should. Now, let's hope they don't.
Do this because people have the shame and
the shame, the blame, yeah,
stigma of mental health.
But
so if you don't know who to reach out to and you don't want to reach out like that because of that, then there's a huge barrier that they don't reach out.
Yeah, you don't have to tell them what you need. Right. Just say, I need some services. 211 will give you whatever you need, and it'll provide that. So you don't have to give the person you're talking to, like I don't have to come in and say, I'm Tara, and I'm struggling with, whatever. I just need services. Can you help me? What can I do?
So if just us as a community would on our Facebook pages say, hey, yeah, that's what if we could all just go home and do that, and then please spread it. We know mental health is a serious thing. It has a taboo. Yep. If ever you think of this, anything, call 211. It's for a lot of things.
And we can definitely do that.
We could all do that on some kind of social media, and then everybody say, please spread this to your friends, because a lot of people don't know.
And we can definitely do that this month, because it is Mental Health Awareness Month.
They didn't think about it until you brought it up. You see what I'm saying? So if we got into the habit of doing that monthly or quarterly, please spread this out to your friends. That kind of thing. Jonna, I'm sorry.
Miss Jonna.
We need to pay you. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Mm-hmm. But you see what I'm saying? Yeah, I absolutely do. Because I totally forgot about service. You see what I'm saying?
Hang on, Ms. Johnson. They got to put you on the mic.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. If we could just go out and, every month, we'll pick a certain date of the month, everybody. Yeah. And this, everybody on your Facebook, please share 211. There's no shame. There's help here. That kind of thing.
This is National Mental Health Month, so this is the month to do that. So, Jonna, is it? Yes. Jonna, I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to put that on my social media page. And can everybody raise their hand? We will do that. So wherever we're influencing, that sphere of influence that we have, we need to get that word out. And this will not be our last forum. It will not be our last forum. And so we'll be looking for you to come to part 2 and bring your friends. Because you're right. This is why we're having the forum. You don't know what you don't know. And when you're in crises, you can't even think straight. And so we have to be sharing that there are resources and having events like this, and we need to be inviting our neighbors and inviting our family and inviting our friends so that we can do a better job of addressing these issues.
And there's no shame. That's the biggest part.
Okay, Alicia had a question, then.
I think Miss Elisa said, it really said what I was going to say. That's why we're here. We're here for a couple of reasons. One is because we really want to be a part of destigmatizing emotional, mental, psychological as a church in a community. I think the other thing is, and Ma Dorothea started saying it, we need to get it out, post it out. That's great. A lot of people don't have by choice access to Facebook. So another reason why the more we know here, we take that home to grandma, to uncle, and we share directly the numbers. The other piece of that, which this again is the beginning of for our ministry, is that we begin to become familiar ourselves with, now we don't diagnose, none of us out here, unless you have some kind of letters, are diagnosing or trying to. Certainly we're listening and we're loving on one another, but one of the most loving things I think for us to do is to what Teresa kind of said, but everybody has supported, is that we become aware, so that it's not just I give you this number today, but then I'm not aware next week that you need to use the number, because as somebody said, if I'm in the midst of it, I may not be thinking clear enough, but that we actually begin to be aware of signs and symptoms and be okay with asking folks, are you okay? And be okay with talking about when you're not okay. So folks feel okay to tell you when they're not okay because you're comfortable with it. So really trying to make that just what we do as we care for one another in our community. So I know we have to go.
Yeah. I was going to say that piece of vulnerability of like when you are vulnerable with someone, they are able to be vulnerable back. And so creating that anti-shame culture of I'm not okay today. I'm not doing this is this. It opens the door for other people to talk about their experiences, because if you're just constantly in this place of we can't talk about this, yeah, we're going to have suicides.
Absolutely.
We're going to have people that you were not aware that they were even going through something, especially within the Black community. You're never going to know. And then
You're wrong about 211, because I have needed help in the past and I have called them and they give you phone numbers that aren't even in existence anymore. So the 211 isn't always a help. So who do you call when they're giving you phone numbers that don't even exist? They're out of order and everything else.
Yeah.
It's not the ultimate solution, because I have dealt with 211 on many occasions, and they give me a list of phone numbers, and I can call half of them, and none of them even exist anymore. And the ones I call, they aren't for what I asked help for. So they give me a bunch of others, and all I end up getting is the runaround, and I never get the help I need.
That was a good question.
Oh. Oh.
And it is much better now.
Yeah.
The thing I can say is we live in an imperfect society,
Yeah.
and the Bible says we're living in a dying world. And so nothing is perfect, but it's what we have. And if you use it and it doesn't work, then, that's why the church is here. Give us a call at the church. We can connect you with some help. You have folk, in the community who are willing. We have an entire panel of professionals who are here not because they're being paid. This is way after work time. They're here because they care. And so while it's not perfect, it's what we have, and we are doing everything we know to do to make it easier for people to get the help that they need. Because I don't want anybody else to suffer in silence. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. Yes, sir. Veronica.
Yeah, and I was just going to add to the 2-on-1, but honestly, I can do that during discussion too. I was going to add that because I get that stress. So I work as the director of mercy at my church at City Hope Fellowship, and a part of my role is connecting with people who need help with those kinds of services. And a part of the barrier is doing those things alone. And so what I find that's helpful is, calling 211 alone can be really stressful, but doing that with somebody makes it all the better because you're not alone and you don't feel voiceless. And so sometimes what can help in those situations is, if 211's giving you the runaround, if you know somebody who can just, spend the hour with you trying to figure out some solutions, that's a lot more helpful. That's all I wanted to add. Thanks.
Okay, Hello. I'm sorry, y'all, but there was an online question that I just now am able to get through. It was for Open Door about insurance. Do you guys take all kind of insurance, no insurance, uninsurance? Something really quick.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm also with Open Door. We take private insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, as well as uninsured individuals. If someone is uninsured and paying out of pocket, we have a sliding fee scale similar to what Dr. Lena mentioned that's based on household size and income.
My job is not here. Their sliding scale fee is much better than ours because ours was built on the medical system. And so if you're trying to get weekly therapy, ours is still expensive. If you have insurance, it's a different story. Most of my Medicaid patients get free therapy. Like Medicaid completely covers it. So just a shout out for what you guys are doing. That is actually going to be a much better sliding scale fee if you have zero insurance. But we also have the navigators at Open Door, which help you get insurance. So if you, if you can qualify, thank you. If you qualify for Medicaid, they can help set you up with Medicaid. They will do the legwork because I don't want to do that. I don't think anybody wants to do that. It's a lot of work. It's super complicated and it's nobody knows how to do this anyway. So that's also an option is you can come to us, go through Medicaid, but also shout out for them.
Thank you for sharing that. And hi, Courtney. I didn't know that was you over there. Couple of things. I want to thank our panelists. Can we just give them a round of applause? Yeah. Standing ovation. Thank you, guys. God bless you. We'll be praying for you. This is hard work, or as Minister Willisha says, it's heart work. And we appreciate having people who genuinely care about others in these positions. So thank you again so much for being here tonight. Demetria Jackson, Catherine Mack, Linda Burkhart, Tara Gudger, and Teresa Long. Thank you, guys. We want to certainly thank Union Baptist Church and Pastor Rob for hosting us. It's wonderful when, and I'm a proud member of Union Baptist Church, it's wonderful when you have a church that's not just concerned about what's happening in these four walls, but our pastor is constantly talking about getting outside and reaching the people in the community. And so I thank God for a church that has that kind of mindset. I want to thank Jackson Life Services Board of Directors. If you guys could all stand, I think we're all here now. JLS board members, thank you guys. God bless you. Our food is provided by Jessica Hall of Gifted Gourmet. And so I'm going to have Pastor Rob come in a minute and pray and bless the food. So we want to thank her in advance. We want to thank Minister Walisha for helping to plan all of this and helping Veronica. And I don't know, did she do the flyer? Yeah, thank you for doing the flyer. Unions Media Ministry, Miss Yvonne, Mike, we love you guys. Thank you for recording so that we can share this for folks who were not able to be with us this evening. And thanks to all of you who have attended. Thank you so much for being here. I do have a little homework for us. Tomorrow is actually Mental Health Action Day. So for Mental Health Action Day, I want you all to do what Sister Jana has asked us to do. If you are on social media, post on your social media page, talk about this event, talk about the help that's available, encourage people to seek help if they need it. That is how we'll destigmatize needing mental health assistance. We have to do that. The second thing I want you to do is wear lime green, and not for Ivy Tech. Wear lime green. It's the official color of Mental Health Month. And so I want to see everybody tomorrow with your lime green on, because that will remind you of everything we learned tonight, and so that we aren't just listening and taking that in and then going home and sitting on the information. It'll remind us to share it with our friends and our loved ones. And so make sure you wear lime green tomorrow. And then last but not least, I want to thank Miss Veronica Wells. She has done a phenomenal job, and I know she's excited about Mental Health Forum Part 2. We'll be talking, we will be talking and planning, and because we want your input, we have a survey. And so if you would please, sir, please, ma'am, fill out the survey. You don't have to put your name on it, but we really want to hear your opinion on how things went, because Part 2, we want to be bigger and better, and we want it to be impactful. And so we need your input to make sure that that happens. And then the last thing I need to do, Veronica, is what? That's it. Have Pastor pray and bless our food, and then we go eat. Awesome. Okay, Pastor Rob, give it up for my pastor, you all.
Okay. You said the phone number is 988 and 211 tomorrow for mental health Thursday, right? Okay. Everybody got that? Thank you. Thank you guys. This was wonderful. This was really good. Thank you to all the panelists. We certainly appreciate you all taking out time just to come here and to help us in our community. So thank you. Thank you all so much. And thank you to Union for allowing us to take a break from our Bible study and to focus on mental health for this month. For the next 2 Wednesdays, we also will have other people that specialize in the area of mental health. They will also continue to present at our Bible studies in the morning and in the evenings. And so feel free to join us. This is for the community. And so thank you all so much. Again, let me close out with a word of prayer. I just want to bless the food, and then we can go over across the way and get some good food. All right? So join me in prayer. Well, Father, we bless you and thank you again for just this wonderful, incredible evening, God, of great information and inspiration. And Lord, I thank you for each and every one of these panelists, their expertise, but most of all, their passion, their love, their heart for people dealing with mental health challenges. So, Father, I pray that you would continue to bless their ministries. I call them ministries because it's more than a job. And so, Lord, I pray that you would bless and continue to flourish and have them to thrive in their ministry that you have blessed them with. And so, Lord, we thank you so much. Again, I pray, God, that we will embrace mental health awareness. I pray that we can have an impact and leave an imprint in getting people the help that's needed. And matter of fact, God, it's all of us at some point deal with mental health challenges. And so, Lord, help us to recognize, God, the warning signs so that we can get the help that we need. So, Lord, I thank you again for this evening. Now, Lord, thank you as we leave from this place, but never from your presence. We pray now for the food. Thank you for the hands that prepared it. I pray that it be nourishment in our bodies. In Jesus' name we pray and we ask it all. Amen. All right, thank y'all again. Have a wonderful evening. Be safe and blessed.